I'm here with Randall Emmett, the director of Midnight in the Switchgrass, which premieres this Friday, July 23rd, in select theaters and on demand. This is your debut feature, so it's very exciting. Debut feature as a director, and we'll get to that in a second. So, how are you doing?
Good, good. It's exciting, and it was a long road to get here with the pandemic, taking priority over directing. But a year later, a year plus later, we're finally getting the movie out. But it was a journey for sure, but exciting.
So you were filming. Were you filming partially during the pandemic?
We filmed 5 days, and then we were shut down on March 17th. Came back to California, July. Went back to Puerto Rico to remount the movie. We had a positive case coming out of LA, so we were forced into quarantine for 3 weeks. And it was like, we were one of the first movies back. And then I just felt at that point like we were really struggling with testing and different things. And I just felt, let's move the movie to California. There was a ranch that I had access to in Santa Barbara. And I basically was able to bubble everybody in August, September. And the testing had come a lot farther at that point. And we were able to finish the movie safely. And we had no COVID cases from that point on. But yeah, it's been, and by the way, I had to rebuild every set. I had to have a different crew. So when you say first time director, I was a first time director, and God wanted to make sure I really wanted to direct. So he or she took care of that for me.
Well, you've also had like decades of producing work.
Yes.
So I imagine some of those skills came in handy. I mean, how did you maintain morale and prevent from blowing through budgets and stuff like that with all this stopping and starting?
Financially, the movie took a big hit because this is something you can't prepare for. You go through the contingency and you go through this. And the good thing is we had a big overage because of the stop starts and all the testing and the new things that we had to implement. But we had tax credits to offset some of that. And the rest of it, we just had to raise the additional funds to cover because there was no insurance that, provided at that time for COVID. It was brutal. It was not easy. It was a real, morale. I'm lucky I had actors that just loved the film so much and really were behind me. Thank God, because I don't know. I mean, there were days, where you're really sad, and then you're also fighting like, are you safe? Are you okay? Is your family okay? You're watching people's businesses collapse and people lose their life, and then you're like, you're trying to make a movie, and it's a very tortured, time in the world. But in the end, by the time we got to September, I was just lucky the actors stayed in touch with me. We would meet up in California, in a safe way where we could still rehearse, at distance and kind of try to be as fresh as we could. But I mean, 9 months it took to get this thing. So it's tough, especially for a first time director. As a producer, I went into survival mode, to how do we get the movie back and how do we do this and what are the protocols? But as a director, I was really creatively, upset, because you wanted to make a film and you had prepped for it, and now it gets stopped and all that.
Well, the other, kind of a big real world issue that sort of encroached on the production was from a story standpoint. I mean, there have been a lot of stories about human trafficking, and Midnight in the Switchgrass it's sort of a new type of serial killer film with themes of human trafficking sort of woven into it. What is it about this issue that you think is so, like, why is it so much on people's radars now? Even the big Marvel movie that's out right now, Black Widow, has kind of that is running through a thread. Why is that? What did you clue into when deciding to make this as your feature debut, as far as, thematically?
Yeah.
And do you think that you have any, are you trying to educate as well as entertain, or is it just something that you think makes an interesting story?
I'm always trying to, I think as a filmmaker now, as a director specifically, and not a producer, I definitely think I'm trying to inspire, create awareness, and I guess awareness and education is probably similar. I think that you want to tell a story and you want people to go on that journey with these characters. And so for me, I felt when I first read the script, the first time I ever read it, I felt like these girls had no voice. They had nobody to speak for them. And I feel like, that whether I have 3 kids, you know, they don't really have a voice yet, right? I have to be their voice as their dad, or, you know, or women who are trafficked, you know, pimped out on the streets, you know, have drug issues and alcohol issues and they're taken advantage of. I just felt like this story had 2 people that really didn't have to risk their life and their job for these girls, but did. And I felt like there's something really poetic about Megan's character and Emile's character, and it really spoke to me. And I felt like these girls they didn't have a voice, and I just felt that this story encompassed that and really put it out there and said, you know, they're human beings too. Just because they might be addicted to drugs, or just because they might be prostitutes at a truck stop, that doesn't allow for society to just cast them away and leave them on the street and say, you can do whatever you want to them. You can, you know, rape, you can pillage, you can sell them, you can kill them. So for me, there was just the film was a voice for these girls that have no voice. And I wanted people to see that. And I wanted people to see 2 characters that do care enough that they were willing to risk their lives and their careers for these girls.
And congratulations to you and the screenwriter as well for not having the cliche, you know, damaged alcoholic cops. You know, you get the feeling that these are kind of regular people who kind of find a calling to do what's right, even though they're up against some pretty dark stuff.
I appreciate that. I really, you know, Lukas, when we did a lot of polishing on his character specifically, we really tried to stay away from cliches. Alan, who wrote it, you know, I delivered it in that way. And I feel like, you know, there were even moments in the script where Emile, I didn't shoot it, but busts in the door to save Megan. And I cut that because I wanted to kind of keep it as raw and real. And I do love that the characters he's a family guy. He's a simple guy who, you know, does have this connection to be a voice for these girls. And so does she, obviously. And I appreciate that, because I didn't want it to be, you know, cliche on any level. And you really have to fight that, you know, when you're reading the script, when you're directing it, you're like, I got to stay away from this. I want it to be, I just wanted everything to be as authentic as I can make it in the limited time I had to shoot the film.
Now, I mentioned earlier your, you know, crazy career as a producer. You know, you've worked with Scorsese, Stallone, Herzog, Carnahan, and like tons of other people. Did you, like, what was the impetus for you stepping out of that producer role and getting into the more creative, like making a movie side of things?
It was pretty simple. I would say, you know, for me, about 3 years ago, I was starting to feel creatively flat, you know, and I don't want to take away from what I do as a producer, because it's a very hard job. You know, there's a lot of creativity in it, but I make a lot of movies every year, you know, produce a lot of films. Some of them like Irishman or Silence or End of Watch or Lone Survivor, you know, any of the, you know, Joe Carnahan from Narc to Boston. Those are really special films, and those are really creatively. But then, you know, there's a business side to things. And what happened was I just felt like I was creatively losing my artistic side of myself a little bit. And so I just felt like, what can I do to bring that back, to bring back the kid in me that is scared, nervous. And I, after we got nominated for Irishman, I said, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'm going to try this. I'm petrified and I'm going to suck at it. I'm just going to try it. And I called a lot of my friends who are directors I look up to, you know, Pete Berg and Antoine Fuqua and all these different great people that I hold on very high regard. And I was like, I would call them at midnight and be like, this is a dumb idea. I shouldn't be doing this. And they're like, see, but this is good, because if you're petrified, Randall, then you're doing the right thing. So I was like, that's not good advice, but okay. So anyway, it just got to a point where I was like, literally, you know, I wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to go back to a place in my career, which is when I started producing, where I could be present again. And directing forces me to be artistically present every single day, every single minute. And as a producer, you know, once the movie starts shooting, if it's going well, I can pop in and out. I'm not there every day. So this was kind of the challenge for me, and I didn't know if I was going to enjoy it. I didn't know if I was going to like it. I didn't know if they would hate me, if I was going to suck, if the actors were going to walk off. I mean, I really went through all of these emotions in pre, and then eventually when we started shooting day one, I remember I was petrified, and I of course had to put on a good face, and I walked in and I just started doing it after I had rehearsed with them a lot. I asked for a lot of rehearsal. And I started doing it, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is it. This is what I needed. This is the high for me, and this brings me back to being a kid again, and being just in the moment." And I love producing, and I'll always continue to produce, but directing is definitely for me now kind of my thing and my happiness, and I'll continue to strive to make, direct more films. And it's a learning curve. It's a learning curve. Like, clearly, my first movie to the second one I just finished with De Niro Malkovich, that's a transition. And then 10 movies from now, I'll probably be having a different conversation. But that's what I love about directing, is this first movie, I'll never forget. Every minute of it, every second of it, I can remember. And it was new and different and epic.
Well, congratulations on all of that. And I could tell watching the film that I was watching something that was different and new, and kind of had a fresh voice to it. So I really felt that the investment that you were putting into it. So yeah, well, thank you for talking to me about this. Congratulations. And yeah, tell me what the next one's about.
The next one is about opiate addiction, and it's Jack Houston, Willa Fitzgerald, Malkovich, De Niro, and Quavo, and it's basically about a couple, and as they face they try to get sober, and how hard that is, and then one of them has lost, and then he kind of goes on a kind of a redemption, revenge to kind of take out the people that were responsible for the tragedy in his life, and in the end, has to come to kind of his own redemption. That's not really going to solve it. It's kind of like, he has to kind of accept fate, as it is. But it's a really, really beautiful tragic love story mixed with, some revenge and commerciality.
Awesome.
But you're the first person, by the way, that's asked about the other movies, so I appreciate it. I'm just trying to figure out, how do I say it without giving everything away? So, but no, but it was great, and I'm in post on that movie now, and it's just exciting, because after directing Midnight, which was such a beautiful experience for me and such a hard experience through the pandemic, then directing that movie, it was like starting over again. It was like doing something all new. And I think as a director, that's the part I love the most, is that no experience will be the same. Whereas as a producer, there's a lot of similarities in each project, so.
Right. All right. Well, cool. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm glad that I got to check out Midnight in the Switchgrass and to talk to you. So Randall Emmett, thank you again very much. And good luck.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.